The California Public Utilities Commission has gutted net metering regulations within that state. Battery installations connected to the grid continue to set new records, but at the same time, solar installations are down about 17% over 2021. I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of December 19th. Now, the California Public Utilities Commission has, on December 15th, announced the Net Metering 3.0, or NEM 3.0, which, as anticipated, has pretty much gutted net metering as it has existed within that state over previous years. And one of the concerns of advocates within the industry is, as California goes, so goes the nation. Well, the California Commission said one of the reasons for doing this was to better allocate costs for the utilities, but also to incentivize the introduction or the integration of batteries onto the grid. So by doing what they did, which was effectively they reduced the amount of money that is paid to producers of excess energy that goes back onto the grid from about, on average, 30 cents a kilowatt hour down to about 3 cents. Now, that will incentivize people to add batteries, but advocates within the industry have called this a disgrace, and that it will certainly undermine Governor Newsom's plans to try and have a 100% clean energy grid within California in the near future. Batteries, on the other hand, continue to increase in grid connections. They are anticipated to more than double from this year to next year, and we'll see about a 10-fold increase over the next 5 years. Now, much of this is driven by high price of fuel of electricity, also the decline of state incentives, such as we've just seen in California from net metering, and also the increase in incentives for batteries that is part of the Inflation Reduction Act that was recently passed. Prices, on the other hand, continue to increase, largely due to supply constraints as more and more people are installing battery systems. Cubic PV has announced that they're going to be opening a 10 gigawatt solar plant in the United States. Haven't determined where exactly that's going to be. Now, this is a relatively new solar company founded in 2021. They have focused on tandem panels. Now, tandem panels are panels that use silicon but also perovskite to increase the efficiency of the panels. This is part of the fallout from the Inflation Reduction Act that is incentivizing domestic production of solar panels and all of the other components. They're anticipating this will be completed, this plant will be completed by 2024 and should employ about 1,500 people when it's completed. Another new company that's getting into the solar manufacturing world here is a company called Adeon Solar. Now, Adeon is a brand new company. In fact, they're looking to create a 500 megawatt panel manufacturing facility in Madison, Georgia. Prior to this, they're actually a spinoff from a company called BI Productions Works, which has historically supplied materials, specifically trailers, and more specifically, solar trailers, to the filament industry. Now, they're anticipating this plant will be completed by 2023. And as mentioned earlier, solar installations fell off by about 17% from 2021 to 2022. Most of this has been in the utility scale area. We've seen a drop of about 36% in utility scale solar. However, residential scale has increased 43% over the previous year. Much of this happening in California. About 36% of all of the residential solar installs were in California, and a lot of that was leading up to the Net Metering 3.0 announcement, where people were trying to get in under the gun under the more generous previous rules that impacted net metering. Now, a lot of this decline is blamed on supply constraints. Specifically, The Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which cut a lot of the materials that were coming from that area in China. And then we saw a Department of Commerce investigation that cut off solar panel supplies from 4 Southeast Asian nations that were trying to avoid tariffs. And then, of course, we saw the delayed impact of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. So all of these, very disruptive year for solar policy, and that caused a decline, a lot of interruption of supply chain. Despite this decline, solar was still the lion's share of new energy installed in the United States. In fact, we see that solar accounted for about 45% of all of the new capacity installed in 2022. So far this year, wind is about 24%. Natural gas about 21%, and then 10% largely made up of battery capacity. This is a new thing that we're starting to measure on the grid, as well as a nuclear reactor that went online in the state of Georgia. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.